Hello, and welcome to ZenithTech. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos covering how to pick the parts for your PC build. Now, we recently uploaded Avalanche, the $2,000 workstation computer build guide, and I want to walk you through the process of how I picked my components and how you can in turn pick your components. So the first part that we're going to talk about is the scope. The scope of the PC is essentially what you want to get out of it. Whether you want it to be a high FPS gaming rig, something that's going to get you the best bang for your buck FPS per dollar that you possibly can find. When we're talking about the goal, you also have to think about sizing. Do you want a laptop or do you want a tower? Then, what kind of performance are you looking for? Are you looking for an HT PC to stay cool and quiet and subdued in the background while you're enjoying your content? Or are you looking for a rendering rig? Something that's going to pump out content, whether that's videos or 3D work, or even gaming for that matter. Next, like I just mentioned, the budget. Budget is critical when you're building a PC. If you don't know how much you can spend, you're going to spend way more than you thought you were going to. For instance, the $2,000 for Avalanche. That was a set budget that I had, and I tried to stay within it the best of my ability. Even with a budget that I was keeping in mind the entire time I picked my components, I still went over. As you can see by the parts list I'm currently showing you. Because it was my passion and like content creation is now, you have to spend a little bit more money to get exactly what you want. So if you have a $500 rig, you're going to be more focused on maybe some of the smaller things, making sure you have a quality power supply. That's a big one that a lot of people don't think about, because the power supply is really just sitting in the background, not really doing a whole lot in terms of performance per dollar or really contributing to that FPS. But in terms of the longevity of your system, if you have a terrible power supply, then things might not last nearly as long as you had hoped, and you might crash quite often. So what kinds of programs are you going to be running on this computer? Are you going to be gaming? Are you going to be doing light workstation use? Are you going to be doing heavy rendering? Are you going to need it for just internet use, internet consumption, and you like a lot of tabs? Those are things that you're going to have to take into account in the coming videos, whether it's for your CPU with a rendering workstation, your RAM if you'd like to have a lot of tabs, or your graphics card in particular for a gaming application. Once you have your scope and your budget down, it's really time to start picking your parts. The scope needs to be focused on throughout the entirety of the build, because if you don't have that in mind, you're going to pick components that just don't make sense. Like, picking a 5960X, which is currently the top end consumer processor from Intel, when you want to build a gaming rig, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you keep the scope in mind, let's just put it this way, it'll help everything in the long run. Make sure that you keep all of your components that you're picking in the next videos loosely tied together, because everything affects everything else. Because everything is tied together with everything else, whether you know it or not. Having a slightly larger CPU heatsink could result in the fact that you might have to get a slightly larger case. Or maybe your graphics card is just a little bit too long, so you have to take out some of the hard drive bays. So maybe you have to go with a 2.5-inch drive instead of a 3.5-inch drive, depending on your case. Like I said, the graphics card affecting the hard drives is because of your case. Well, maybe the graphics card doesn't affect your hard drives because you picked the right case, but maybe you can't run 2 or 3 graphics cards because you picked a small case that doesn't have a lot of airflow. Keep your scope in mind throughout the following videos. I'll be going through 3 particular price points. Your heavy budget, so what are the absolute basics that you need for any rig, period. A middle tier gaming rig, and then a high-end workstation similar to my own. Now, these videos can be applied to anything. Any build, any budget, no matter what price point. Now, I might be picking components that don't make sense in your case, and that's something you're going to have to keep in mind. I just can't cover everything because there are a lot of components out there. So this is going to wrap up the introduction to our first video of this series. please give me some feedback in the comments below, whether you like something about what I'm doing or maybe you dislike it. Either or, constructive criticism is very much appreciated. If you can hit a like button or a dislike, it's totally up to you, but the more you like and dislike, the easier it is for me to tell how you guys are enjoying the content. So, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.